The waitress just stood there, her hand tingling, her mind reeling. Just moments before, she'd slapped a customer. The sound of it, sharp, ugly, still hung in the air, echoing in the sudden, dead silence of the fancy restaurant. All around her, forks were frozen mid-air, conversations had vanished. She'd just physically assaulted someone during the busiest part of the lunch rush. It was a moment of pure, unchecked rage, the boiling point of a morning filled with tiny frustrations and a deep-seated prejudice she'd let fester for years. What she didn't know, what she couldn't possibly understand in that flash of anger, was that she had just sealed her own fate. She had just struck a woman whose name, though unknown to the public, carried more weight in the city's secret corridors of power than the mayor's. She had just slapped the wife of the most feared man in the city. And her life, as she knew it, was about to be over. This wasn't just a bad day at work, it was the end. That slap would echo for a lifetime, and for this waitress, that lifetime of regret was set to begin in just a few minutes. Section 1, the setup. Chloe Turner figured she was a pretty good judge of character. For 6 years, she'd worked at La Stella Cadente, or the Falling Star, a restaurant that was all about serving the city's richest and most powerful. From where she stood, Chloe didn't see herself as just a waitress, she was more like a bouncer for the upper crust. She sorted people into two simple boxes, those who belonged, and those who didn't. Her judgment was quick, shallow, and final. Chloe was 28, and she was bitter. She felt like life owed her more than refilling champagne flutes and faking smiles for people who could buy a bottle of wine for the same price as her monthly rent. This bitterness curdled into a quiet contempt, especially for anyone she decided wasn't worthy of sitting at one of her tables. On this particular Tuesday, the restaurant was buzzing with power lunches and hushed gossip. Chloe moved between tables like a robot, her smile plastered on. She'd just been laying it on thick for some tech billionaire, practically drooling as she recommended the truffle pasta. He'd left her a crisp $100 bill, but the cash didn't make her feel any better. It just felt like a scrap from the king's table, a reminder of the giant gap between her life and theirs. To make things worse, her manager, a nervous wreck named Julian, had warned her that a big-time food critic might be in today, cranking the tension up to 11. Chloe's nerves were shot. That's when she saw the woman walk in. She was black, poised, and had an air of quiet confidence that was impossible to ignore. She was dressed elegantly but simply, no flashy logos, no giant jewels. To most people, she just looked like a classy woman. But to Chloe's prejudiced eyes, she was a glitch in the system, a puzzle piece that didn't fit the carefully constructed image of La Stella Cadente. Chloe's brain did its quick, ugly math and came to a conclusion: this woman did not belong here. Just one? Chloe asked, her tone already flat and dismissive. She grabbed a menu and led the woman not to a nice table by the window, but to a tiny, awkward spot right next to the noisy kitchen, the table they saved for people they hoped would leave quickly. "I'd prefer a table with a bit more light, if that's okay," the woman said, her voice perfectly calm. "What about that one?" She pointed to a comfortable booth that had just opened up. Chloe's fake smile got even tighter. "Sorry, that section is closed. This is all we have for a party of one." It was a complete lie, but denying this woman the simple request gave Chloe a sick little thrill of power. The woman just nodded, a flicker of something unreadable in her eyes, and sat down. Chloe hadn't bothered to ask her name, but it was Isabella Moretti. While the name Moretti is a common trope in fictional mafia stories, for the people who actually ran this city, the judges, the cops, the politicians, the name was very, very real. Isabella was the wife of Antonio Moretti, the man they called the Ghost, the unseen king of the city's entire criminal underworld. But today, she just wanted a quiet lunch. She was used to being misjudged and was willing to let the waitress's small insult slide. Chloe, however, was just getting started. For the next 15 minutes, Chloe put on a clinic in passive aggression. The water Isabella asked for never came. When Chloe finally bothered to take her order, she tapped her pen impatiently on her notepad. While other tables got complimentary bread baskets, Isabella's remained empty. Each little slight was a deliberate jab, meant to make her feel unwelcome. Isabella, though, just read her book, The Picture of Calm. Her grace just made Chloe even angrier. She wanted a reaction. She wanted this woman to get loud, to cause a scene, to prove Chloe's ugly assumptions right. When the food finally showed up, carried by a different server, it was the wrong order. A steak instead of the sea bass Isabella had ordered. She politely tried to get Chloe's attention. "Excuse me," Isabella said, her voice still quiet but firm. "I think there was a mistake. I ordered the sea bass." Chloe glanced at the plate, then back at Isabella, a look of pure contempt on her face. "That's what you ordered," she said, stating it like a fact. "I'm positive I ordered the fish," Isabella replied, her patience starting to thin. "Are you calling me a liar?" Chloe's voice started to rise, and a few nearby tables turned to look. This was it. Chloe was pushing for a fight. "Maybe you just forgot what you ordered." The insult, thick with condescension, hung in the air. The buzz of the restaurant died down as more people started to stare. Isabella put her napkin on the table, her calm finally cracking to reveal solid steel underneath. "I'm not going to argue," she said, her voice low and dangerously clear. "I'd like to speak to your manager." That was the last straw for Chloe. Asking for a manager was a declaration of war. It meant she'd failed to put this woman in her place. All her frustration, from her dead-end job, her resentful life, it all boiled over. "You think you can come in here and disrespect me?" Chloe hissed, leaning in close. "You're the one who doesn't belong here. People like you are all the same, always complaining, always wanting something for free." Isabella actually took a step back, shocked by the sheer venom in Chloe's words. She stood up, planning to find the manager herself, but before she could move, Chloe's control completely snapped. In one horrifyingly fast motion, Chloe raised her hand and slapped Isabella square across the face. The sound was like a gunshot. A single, sharp crack that silenced everything. A collective gasp went through the dining room. Everyone froze. Chloe stood there, breathing heavily, a wild look of triumph on her face. Isabella didn't cry. She didn't even flinch. She just stood there, slowly raising a hand to her cheek where a red mark was already starting to form. The look in her eyes was terrifying. It wasn't anger or humiliation. It was a cold, chilling calm, the quiet eye of a hurricane. The fire in Chloe's gut turned instantly to ice. Isabella slowly lowered her hand and pulled out her phone. Her fingers were rock steady as she tapped a single name. She put the phone to her ear, her eyes locked on Chloe. The whole restaurant held its breath. "Antonio," Isabella's voice was eerily calm. "There's been a problem at La Stella Cadente." She paused. "Yes, I'm all right. Just, please come." She hung up, put the phone back in her purse, sat back down, and waited. The silence was now thick with a sense of doom that everyone could feel but no one could name. The full weight of what she had done was just starting to crash down on Chloe. It was too late. It was less than 10 minutes. The call was made, but it felt like a lifetime. The star had fallen. Julian, the manager, rushed over, pale and sweating, stammering apologies and offering to fire Chloe on the spot, but Isabella just waved him away. Her gaze was locked on the front door. Chloe was frozen in place, a knot of pure terror twisting in her stomach. She had no idea who Antonio was, but the way Isabella said his name filled her with a primal fear. Then, a long, black sedan pulled up outside, so sleek and menacing it made all the other expensive cars on the street look like toys. Two men in dark suits got out, scanned the area, and opened the back door. The man who emerged was Antonio Moretti. He wasn't big or muscular, but as he walked toward the restaurant, he moved with the deadly grace of a panther. His face was unreadable, but his eyes missed nothing. He was called the Ghost for a reason. He was rarely seen, but his power was felt everywhere. As he stepped inside, a wave of pure fear washed over the room. The manager, Julian, looked like he'd seen a ghost for real. His face went white. He knew exactly who this was. Antonio's eyes swept the room and landed on his wife. He walked straight to her, ignoring everyone else. He gently knelt, cupped her face in his hands, and brushed his thumb over the red mark on her cheek. "Are you hurt?" he asked, his voice a low murmur just for her. "I'm fine," she whispered back. Only then did Antonio stand and face the room. His cold eyes found Julian. "This is your restaurant?" he asked, though it wasn't really a question. "Mr. Moretti," Julian stammered, "I am so sorry. This is a terrible mistake." "She's fired, of course, anything you want." Antonio held up a hand, and Julian fell silent. Then, his gaze shifted and landed on Chloe. She felt her very soul wither. There was no anger in his eyes, there was nothing. It was the detached look of someone about to crush a bug. "You," he said, the word cutting through the silence. "You struck my wife." Chloe's mouth opened, but no words came out. The fear was absolute. Antonio took a slow step closer, his voice quiet but more terrifying than any shout. "I have one rule," he said softly. "What is mine is protected. You put your hands on my wife. That's a mistake you can't undo. You can only pay for it." He paused. "You like to judge people, I hear. Let me make a judgment for you." He glanced around the room. "Your career in this city is over. You won't be a waitress. You won't clean floors. You won't work anywhere. Every door will be closed. Every application you submit will disappear. Anyone you ask for a job will know that hiring you costs more than they can afford to pay. This city is now your prison. You no longer belong anywhere." He then turned his quiet, devastating attention to the trembling manager. "And you let this happen. This establishment is sick. I'm the cure." Antonio looked around the room one last time. La Stella Cadente has served its last meal. By tomorrow, I will own this building. Maybe I'll turn it into a soup kitchen. Or maybe I'll just tear it down and leave an empty lot as a reminder. Either way, your business, your reputation, it's all gone. It ended the moment he gestured to Chloe, made her choice. With that, he offered his arm to Isabella. They walked out of the restaurant, got into the waiting car, and slid silently back into the city. Behind them, they left total ruin. Chloe finally broke down, letting out a raw sob as her world crumbled. Julian sank into a chair, a broken man. Justice had been served, not by a court, but by the cold, swift, and unforgiving hand of Antonio Moretti. Conclusion and CTA: the story of Chloe Turner and La Stella Cadente became a cautionary tale, whispered throughout the city's service industry. Just as Antonio promised, the restaurant closed the next day. It was eventually torn down, leaving an empty lot as a scar in the heart of the city. True to his word, Chloe was blacklisted everywhere. After months of dead ends, she was forced to leave the city in disgrace, forever haunted by the echo of a single slap. It's a chilling story that proves a simple truth: you never really know who you're talking to. Behind every face is a life you can't see. A single moment of prejudice, a flash of anger, can set off a chain reaction you can never hope to control. It goes to show that sometimes, the quietest people carry the most power, and one bad decision can truly last a lifetime. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like and subscribe for more tales of karma and consequence.